All right, how's it going out there, folks? Welcome back here to a Wednesday night, 8:57 p.m. That's California time. January 29th, 2025 is the date. Make sure my bells are off, which they are. Latest activity here shows a swarm of earthquakes up around Alaska right now. Got some big-time movement coming in here with a bunch of upper fives in the area outside of Anchorage to the northwest here. The largest sequence so far, a 5.8, but apparently there's three of them here spread out apart from each other. I don't have any. That's kind of interesting. Three little spikes there on Yellowstone as well. But I don't have any seismograph stations out here specifically around this area. But it does look like things are quite strained out here across the subduction zone inland here in Alaska. Let's go ahead and check this out, see what we have for the... Wow, it looks like they've removed all the quakes or what? What's going on there? Only a 5.3 now? Interesting. You guys see that, right? Wow. So they completely removed the swarm, and looks like they just added one earthquake. We'll see if they add this back on. So the one that they kept, a 5.3, a ways away from pretty much the population density out here. As you can see, Anchorage sits down to the southeast here, considerable distance. Either way, that's kind of a moderate earthquake. But there was three of them out there. I wonder why everything disappeared. Let's check out some of these magnitudes, see what we have. No stations contributed, but they came up with a 5.3 or a 5.5 with no stations being contributed. That's interesting. So, wow, we'll have to check back on that and see what goes on, because I don't think that this is only one earthquake. Let me look here and see, because I'm getting just pounded with a bunch of different magnitudes out here. I want to see if I can bring up a seismograph station a little bit more local to that area. Let's see. Maybe this one, Stony River. Let's see if this one loads. Doesn't look like it's going to. I'll just try a number of them. I normally don't keep a whole lot of seismograph stations there monitored for the Alaska area, although I should. Of course, this area gets some big earthquakes, and nothing's coming in there, so I'll have to check back on that. But when I look here on my phone, I got at least 3 messages, 5.8, 5.6. It says the 5.6 was deleted after being reviewed by a seismologist. Looks like the 5.8 got downgraded there to a 5.3, but some further movement out here now across the area of the Aleutian Trench. I kind of chatted about this morning. We were watching for some migrational pattern here because this area has been kind of absent in terms of earthquake activity recently. And if you look at the last 30 days or so, it comes to a halt right about here where we're currently seeing that 5-pointer. So watch for some further movement out there. But that's interesting for them to drop a couple of quakes like that. We'll check back on that and see if anything becomes of it. But nonetheless, that is some interesting earthquake activity. So got to watch the northern edge here of the Pacific Plate. It's been obviously quite active out here in the last 24 hours. Not so much here across the western Pacific, but I'm betting here soon we'll see an amplified increase in earthquakes here across this region. The general plate movement out there with the Pacific Plate is to the northwest. So any movement that does normally take place out here has kind of a left slippage to it, so to speak, and that should amplify strain out here across this region. But not done yet. Looks like they're across Alaska with the number of earthquakes out there in the last 24 hours. Pretty decent amount. Also some activity stirring up in the Cascadia Basin, 4.2 and a 3.0. 3.0. Nothing going on as far as any major quake activity across the Cascadia for now, but let's just double check the tremor map tonight, see what we have, which, 43 epicenters here across the southern end of the Cascadia. Not a whole lot of earthquake activity ramping up there yet, but could see things kick up following that tremor event. We'll see, though. Let's go. Yeah, there we go. I was wondering where all my quakes went to. Little explosion up there in Prineville earlier. That originally came in as a 3.0 earthquake, but it looks like some type of explosion. I don't know what's out there, but it showed up on the seismograph station there. It looks like it's just off this highway, George Milliken Highway or Road. So I'm not for sure. Maybe some of the locals up there can clue us in on what's going on with that explosion. Yellowstone area. Looks like the last reported earthquake is going to be 0.2, 12 o'clock local time. But I think we've had a little bit more earthquake activity than that. Let's see what we got. Of course, that 3.7 coming in last night. And throughout the course of the day today, a number of smaller earthquakes in there. You know, it looks like the last reported earthquake maybe was this one right here. But as you can see in the last few hours, we've had a number of more earthquakes in there. Nothing big, but it is it looks like maybe a start of some type of earthquake swarm out here. This earthquake activity on the graph is showing up a little bit closer here around the Yellowstone caldera. So we'll see if any of this recent pressurization here has affected areas closer to the caldera. We'll definitely keep an eye on that. But as you can see, there's at least 3 good size earthquakes showing up on all the seismograph stations here. Probably a 2-pointer at least. Nothing being reported in this area since 12 o'clock this afternoon. So lacking some earthquake activity there, or at least the reporting side of it. San Francisco area, 1 earthquake on the San Andreas Fault outside of the San Francisco Zoo. Nothing big, a little 1.4, but it is in that area that's seen a little bit of earthquake activity here recently. Quite a bit. But again, nothing big going on there for now. Southern California, anything major going on? Nothing above 2.5. Generally small microquake activity out here today. No unusual swarming that I can note. Just, the general earthquake activity happening. Texas area, rock and rolling outside of San Antonio earlier with a 4.5 earthquake. Pretty decent earthquake out there in the oil fields of Texas. As we zoom in here, well, let me go back here to this map, satellite view. As we zoom in to this area, notice these little checkered boxes out here. Those are not beautiful camping sites. Those are wastewater ponds here in the blue. A lot of oil pumping operations out here. And this 4-pointer that struck is really close to several of them. There may even be some new ones out here. But yeah, oil fields and earthquake activity, right, go hand in hand. That's just a fact these days. A pretty good swarm out here earlier in the last 30 days out here across this region. Far as, this may be some older oil fields out here that have been wiped away from the land in terms of visual aspect of it. There's one right here. But, obviously earthquake activity is going to hit these fields, and the damage is done out there. So earthquakes will get, they'll be numerous out here. Some of them can be big, as a 4.5, if not upper 5s out here on occasion across some of these oil fields. Not related to stress or strain. Well, it's related, obviously, to stress and strain. But as far as fault systems out here go, that's not anything to do with any faults out here. This is out in this oil field right here. Let's see, one more earthquake outside of the York Harbor, Maine area. Nothing big going on there. Of course, that region had a decent shaker out there a couple days ago, 3.8. It is in a location that can get some big earthquakes. Been a couple 100 years as well since anything big has happened there. So look at the earthquake 3D globe here. Yeah, we got some almost Almost got earthquake activity happening within minutes of each other up here across the northern edge of the Pacific Plate. Started off with 5.3, and then about 13 minutes later, 5.2 over here across the Aleutian Trench. So things definitely on the move. And it's very obvious out here. If you look at the last 30 days of 2.5 and above, number of 4s and 5s out here, all pointing to potentially something bigger out here. Keep an eye on this gap zone. It's still a little quiet. That's where that 5.2 just struck. Japan pretty quiet for now. Not going to stay that way. Although it looks like around the Taiwan area, we're getting a little swarming back in that region. Some 5 and it looks like a 5 and a 4-pointer. Keep an eye there on the Nankai Trough. Things are quite strained across that region. And we got the typical clustering going on there across the Indonesia Islands area. Pretty quiet out here across the Solomon Islands and the rest of the region. Just some older movement there. What do we got? Another earthquake there across the Alaska region, 4.4. That's being reported there by the EMSC model. There we go. Yeah, 4.4. This one due inland here, a little bit deeper. So you see how this is fairly deep here as well. Just a few minutes later. Is that a minute later or a couple seconds later, 4.4? Maybe they're going to wipe that 5.2 out and just go with a 4.4. I've been doing a lot of downgrading here recently, deleting a lot of events. But we kind of have to watch that. Either way, that could be a big sign here of something much bigger about ready to happen with this type of event that's happening. But if they remove this, then not so much, but still keep an eye on that. See what we have here, folks. That's not the current view of Hawaii. This is, in terms of the Kilauea volcano, the summit area. Looks like there's still some hot spots down there in the couple of those craters, which are still obviously glowing and hot. I'm sure we'll come back up, though, here in a couple days in terms of inflation and resume the episode of eruption here. Quick glance at the deformation data. Here's the last 2 days going up since the pause there. There's our pause going back up. So we could see, I think we got another day, probably this time tomorrow night, we may see the return for an eruption there with this type of cycle going on. Yeah, they still got that earthquake up there. All right. Either way, I think it's pretty obvious. We got some big-time movement up here taking place. We're going to be on guard across the Alaska area. Let's take a look here at the rest of the earthquake 3D globe. Got some 2s out there across Turkey. Nothing big, just a little centered region of earthquake activity. Nothing going on across the Atlantic Ocean. South America, Middle America Trench all look pretty normal. It's like that on any given day out there. Nothing new. All right, quick glance here at the space weather activity. Got pretty large sunspot out here on the northeastern quadrant of the sun. 3977, 3976, 3978. Pretty good clustering of sunspots. I guess main areas might be the center core right here. As massive as it is, there's not a whole lot of complexity, but still want to watch that because it has been evolving a little bit. May see some M flare activity, maybe an X flare. 5% chance for X flare, M flare at 35. No major roars there in the forecast for now, folks. Got some big time severe weather coming up tomorrow, though. Got tornado potential down there across eastern Texas and Louisiana. That's a 5% zone for, up to an EF5 tornado. That's the big ones. 2% surrounding that. Got a chance for some damaging wind gusts and also a little bit of hail associated with those storms tomorrow. There's that severe weather popping up. There's tomorrow's time frame. Northern California, Man, we got some decent rainfall headed our way. Looks like we're going to stay wet here for a little while. This model is actually backed off a little bit in terms of rainfall accumulation, but we'll see. Either way, the pattern is open in terms of low pressures coming into the west coast, and I'm okay with that. Down the road towards Valentine's Day, it looks like some snow and ice, maybe out there across Oklahoma, Kansas, Arkansas region. A lot of cold air dipping back down into the country. We'll see, though, how that plays out. All right, folks, so keep your eyes open on Alaska. Got some decent movement going on, and supposedly only 3 earthquakes. Let me check the EMSC model, see what they're reporting for the earthquake activity in Alaska. Hello. What's going on? I don't like the EMSC model. It's been a little glitchy out here. Okay, that's weird. Yeah, so they're only showing that one earthquake up here, the 5.3, and also a 4.4, not showing the other 5-pointer. Still up there on the USGS map. It has been reviewed, so it looks like it's sticking. They even put out their aftershock forecast here. All right, so we'll continue to keep an eye on the Alaska area. Got some definitely some displacement going on there. We'll catch you guys out here in the morning. I'm pretty tired, ready for bed. Gonna call it an early night. Take care, folks, and we'll see you guys back out here sometime in the morning.